This is Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's only the second day. I've got to get used to that. You know, it's a short work week for most of us, but welcome to another edition of Northeast Streaming Sports. I'm your host, Sonja Pearson, going down with you guys tonight on sports news, left and right. How was your day? Come on in, say hello. I've got a special guest joining me here shortly. Let me just go ahead and get on here real quick and just tag some followers. And I hope everyone is doing well. It's a little mad, to be honest with you right now, ladies and gentlemen, because guess what? There's no NFL coming up this weekend, but there is sports news, and the NFL is always got news going on. But some top headlines we got going on right now is the college football world is going to be approving the 5+7 model for a 12-team playoff spots. Now, you all know they've been talking about that for quite a while because let's face it, there was a lot of teams last year that felt like they got snubbed. Now, the college football playoff board of managers unanimously approved a model that will guarantee the 5 highest ranked conference champions inclusion in an expanded 12-team field this fall, along with the next 7 highest ranked teams. That's according to the CFP that they announced on Today and ESPN. Now, after months of delay of the dwindling Pac-12, you know, there's teams moving around, a lot of teams coming to the SEC and all that good stuff. The decision was made Tuesday morning in a virtual meeting of 10 FBS commissioners and the Notre Dame president, Reverend John Jenkins. The vote had to be unanimous for the 5-7 format to be approved, and the Pac-12 had either previously abstained or asked for a delay as it worked on determining its future following sweeping conference realignment. Now, this is going to be pretty big, y'all, because for you all who are out there that have been watching and following college football for quite a while, this is going to make sure that those teams that are right on the cusp of being in the playoffs do what? Actually make it. So big news coming out of the college world, as well as big news coming out of the NFL. Everybody still got news that's football related. Now, speaking of the NFL, the Patriots and Slater 10-time Pro Bowler has retired from the NFL. The Pat Slater announced that he is leaving after 16 seasons and 10 Pro Bowl nominations. Matthew Slater is who I'm talking about. He does hold the NFL's record for the most special teams Pro Bowl appearances with 10, and he announced his retirement on Today after 16 seasons. He was quoted as saying, "I've given all that I possibly can to respect and honor the game." This is what he put on social media and shared it with the New England Patriots. And though it is time for my relationship with the game to evolve, basically the love I have for it will last a lifetime. So Matthew Slater, big miss up there in New England. Just, you know, news all across the board. So hello, everyone coming on. Good evening. Please say hello to me as you are joining me. Now, I do have to let you guys know this one little tiny tidbit, and this is all I'm going to say about it. So the Kansas City Chiefs parade, apparently the 2 juveniles that were arrested are now going to be indicted as adults for the murder of the DJ Lisa Lopez Galvin down there in Kansas City. That's all I'm going to say about that. That was announced on Today. Those 2 juveniles will stand trial or be indicted, I should say, as adults in her death. All right. Moving along, we got a lot of other stuff going on right now in the world of the NFL. Steve Wilks was let go of the 49ers since I last spoke with you all individually. And it's just like, are you really kidding me? Steve Wilks, once again, has been let go of another team, this time the San Francisco 49ers as defensive coordinator. I'm going to be honest, you guys, I am shocked. Why? Because I felt like defense wins championships. And without the championships, you can't get where you need to go, and you cannot do what you need to do. And let's be clear, they beat out 30 other teams. So for you to get there as a defensive coordinator, how is it that you suddenly don't fit. Speaking of not fitting, I don't fit right now because I have a special guest that's coming up and I am super excited. You all show some love for the one, the only Renee Washington. Renee, hello, how are you?
I'm good. I've been battling my computer over here because it decided to die. It's like inching along. It was on 1%. I was scrambling, but I'm better now. I am here. I'm happy to be here. So
Renee,
I
it's a blessing.
apologize.
It's a blessing to have you. Renee is my special guest tonight. She's a three-time Division I All-American and Hall of Famer soccer. She also is a CBS and ESPN college analyst, sports that is, up in Philadelphia. She has a couple of shows up there. So Renee, I'm going to yield and let you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So gosh, you mentioned a lot of it already. I work in a lot of different areas of sports coverage. So with ESPN, as you mentioned, a college reporter, sideline reporting, doing work as an analyst through CBS and Paramount Plus, doing college soccer games with the NWSL. I also host here in Philly shows for PHOI Sports, which is actually what's got me scrambling because today is opening day, the first day for the Union and their first soccer game of the season, playing down in Costa Rica against Deportivo Saprissa in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I host the Union show, the Philly show, which of course the first Philly spring training game is coming up this weekend. So all my work is ramping up right now, which I love because it's transitioning from from one off season to the next in season, and then my other sports are transitioning into off season. So yes, I do a little bit of everything: basketball, football, soccer, baseball, you name it, I'm covering it.
Stay busy, and that's why I'm so honored that you have this time with me. And if you feel like you got to run, I got you covered. But we're on for an hour, and so I'm excited. We've been talking about this like for a few days now, and I've just been literally giddy all week. So super excited about you being on, and congratulations to all of your accomplishments. That is definitely something to be in awe of. Let's see, we got a comment coming on here. My Aunt Giovanna is on and she's sending hearts to us. Hi, Aunt Gio. Thanks for joining us out of North Carolina. So, Renee, I know you were talking about all of the seasons and the soccer and everything is kicking off. Tell us a little bit about that because now Atlanta and a lot of teams, the Charlotte actually has a soccer team. They're trying to get everything up and running under the ownership of David Tepper. And we are all trying to transition, like you said, from this whole NFL news and the offseason news and everything that comes along with that to now getting into MLB, basketball, as well as soccer. So tell us a little bit about how the Philadelphia sports arena is looking when it comes to soccer. I'll put it in two parts so it won't be kind of convoluted there.
Yeah. Listen, down in the Charlotte, even Atlanta area, soccer's growing. It's great to see because you're seeing the expansion of soccer, especially in the United States right now, because of the fact that you have players like Messi, who is a household name that is playing in the MLS. Those types of moves and the growth for the sport has been tremendous on the men's and women's side, honestly. More teams, expansions happening. The leagues are just getting a lot more coverage, which is needed. More opportunities to be able to watch them on TV, watch them on your phone, the same access. Obviously, I know your show's on Roku. There's a lot more platforms, Roku being one of them, where you're able to now watch games, watch highlights, watch videos, interviews, whatever it may be. So just getting the coverage out there, which is incredible to see, and I'm happy to be a part of it. In terms of the Philadelphia team, the Union specifically, they have been in the past, in the last couple seasons, very steady, very consistent. They made it to the MLS Cup back in 2022, which is the championship for the MLS. Last season, they did fall short. They were knocked out in the semis, but every year they've continuously been a top team in the league. This year, the expectation and the hope is that they can be a team that makes a deep run into the playoffs. So it really gets started today. They have, in the soccer world, and we're seeing more of this in basketball. Football has not done this, but I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now we see it. The international types of tournaments or just in-season tournaments that are happening in soccer, you're seeing it now. The NBA does it, the WNBA does it. Other leagues are kind of picking up on that. But that's one of the biggest things right now for the soccer world, that you're getting the start of the MLS season, but you're also getting international games, going down to Costa Rica and playing a game, maybe in Mexico, versus just playing league games. So it's a lot, but I'm hoping that the team this year is going to be better than what they were last year and take some strides.
And that's really big because we do see a lot of the teams, the NFL being one of them, now just starting to kind of go international. And so we get how Charlotte is kicking off its third season this Saturday at home in Charlotte. That's February 17th, Saturday against Minnesota. Then you have them even coming up to New York the following Saturday, and even going up to Vancouver the first week of March. So like you said, this is a thing that kind of goes international. Of course, I live here in Atlanta, but North Carolina is home for me, so I kind of follow both sports there. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting involved, more knowledgeable of the game of soccer. And I've read over everything you have going. I've followed a couple of your posts this week, and you're absolutely inspired. I look forward to, kind of shadow some of the stuff you got going on this season, so I can be like, yes, Renee showed me that. So yeah, definitely interested, especially beautiful Costa Rica. That has to be absolutely gorgeous. Are you going to be able to go down?
I wish. I do get the chance to go down for the Phillies spring training. I'll be down in Clearwater, Florida, for a week. That's exciting because it's not as warm as it's been down south in Atlanta area. It's been cold up here still. We're still getting that last part of winter. So I'm excited because next month for March, I'll have a chance to go down and see the team in spring training, which is always great because before the season officially starts, you get a chance to see what that preseason period is like for them and how, the guys are working back. So I wish I could go to Costa Rica, but I at least will get to go to Florida. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah, and needless to say, and that's super cool. It's actually been cold here. We've had to have pipes dripping here the last couple of nights in Atlanta because it's been 31 at night. Today's high did get up to 60, but a couple of days ago it was like 44 for the high. So old man Winter has not left us yet. The groundhog, I don't know if he saw a shadow or whatever, but nonetheless, none of that is applicable right now. So we were just about to delve into a little bit of NFL news because I actually, got my start with a lot of podcasting on NFL news. Grew up watching NBA, so I'm still familiar with that. So I guess we'll start with the NFL news first. Looks like Matt Slater has retired after 16 seasons with the Patriots. Today announcing that 10 Pro Bowl seasons, holding the record for that with the NFL. And so the Patriots have not been the best over the last couple of seasons, but what type of void do you think that would actually have with someone such as Matt Slater being now coming away from that organization?
Honestly, I think right now the Patriots are in such a time of change in general, all across the board. Bill Belichick, Slater, it's needed too, because the old regime and what worked, going back to Tom Brady winning them Super Bowls, is the thing of the past. And they need to have some sort of a rebuild and pivot. And I think you're going to see more of these types of moves where they're just kind of bringing in some new personnel, bringing in some new voices, changing the culture up a little bit because they're not able to compete in the NFL right now. It's just, they're not. They're a team that's on the outside looking in. They still need a lot of talent. They still need a lot of pieces on the actual field. But a lot of that starts behind the scenes with coaching personnel, front office decisions, because they need to invest for the future. Because right now, the Patriots, to have the dynasty that they did of winning Super Bowls and winning championships year after year, at least being a Super Bowl contender, to a major drop off. I mean, we've seen teams over the years where there's a slow, gradual decline. That was not the case for the Patriots. And this past season was very poor in terms of their performance. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that. I am looking forward to seeing what the new look New England Patriots are all about, because for so many years we connected NFL to the Patriots. They were one of those teams that everybody was talking about and everybody was keeping an eye on. And it's been kind of odd that we're seeing a change now where the Patriots are no longer that team. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more. It's weird. I think is the best way I can describe it. But I'm excited to see what their new head coach, Jared Mayo, is able to bring to the team. They're also getting a change of just kind of the overall culture and vibe of, being able to know last dynasty's team is not this dynasty's team if they're going to try to build a new top dog. And so I think Jared's come in, their head coach, and others have been actively talking about wanting to change so that they're not getting stuck in their old ways and finding new voices, finding new personnel, finding new leaders, finding new guys in the locker room. So congrats to Matt Slater. It's been an incredible career with the Patriots, but it's time for a change. The time is definitely now.
And it definitely is. And you so eloquently explained all that, because the Patriots are almost unfathomable of what we've seen. They literally were, for all intents and purposes, America's team, even though I know the Cowboys say they are. The Patriots with their dynasty, as they say on Game of Thrones, dynasty. I kind of like when they say it like a French way. But to know that you almost could not separate the two. And so when we saw Tom Brady leave, we saw, Belichick slip. We're like, oh, okay, he's just getting used to it. But then we saw him with the quarterback carousel, trying quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. Yeah. No one was Tom Brady. And so it kind of leads to the thought, was it really the Belichick way, or was it the Brady way, or the two of them together? Because let's be clear, Tom came to Tampa, took the team literally from the bottom of the division, and had been at the bottom of the division for quite a while in the NFC South, and took them all the way to the top. And even after serving like a 4-game suspension, they still go to the Super Bowl and win. It's crazy. It's like Tom works magic on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it was definitely that.
Yeah, he works magic. But we've seen, I kind of was talking about this on another show I was on. We've seen like changes throughout the league this entire season. Like there's been teams that have just looked not the part. They've looked totally different. There was no resemblance of teams that we saw in the past, or they started off really, like, for instance, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, that team is high caliber. It clearly is something going on up there. Jalen Hurts did not even look like he was in the game a couple of times. And I like Jalen Hurts as a player, because I have a lot of players that I actually like. I have my team, but I have players that I like also, and he's one of my favorite players. And he just looked sometimes so defeated without actually even being defeated. And so in your, because you're up there and you see everything and hear the rumblings or what have you. I know that Nick Sirianni is on the chopping block. I know that if he doesn't get it together, they had Frank Wright from the Panthers who was released. They had him up there consulting and what have you. And they brought in all these extra coordinators and everything. I know that if they do not show improve this next season, and probably not even halfway through the season, if it's not at least looking different, that we may see a change even greater in Philadelphia, notwithstanding Jason Kelsey's talking about he may or may not leave.
You had to bring up the Eagles. So listen, this is my team. By coincidence, my office that I'm in now is green, Eagles green. But I will say overall, there's a lot of different factors for the Eagles this year. Obviously, an incredible 10-1 start. They jump out, top of the league. Seemed like they're, that the Jets loss was like a fluke. It seemed like everything was going perfectly on paper. But the truth is, as you were watching the games, this team never put together a full game. They never showed, like, their record did not indicate how they were playing. And usually it's interesting to get the reverse, where a team is playing well but just falling short. The Eagles were not playing well and winning games. And so I remember saying very early on, because we saw them in preseason, they didn't, their first string guys didn't play at all in preseason together. And I actually thought they should have gotten at least a half, a quarter, something together in a game-like situation to just break out of the mold of practice and training. But they never got that. And so the beginning of the season, I remember saying, it's just going to take them time. They're going to need time to gel. It's coming together. They've got new coordinators, all these new pieces. It's not the same group. It's going to take time. And then you fast forward week after week, and the adjustments were never being made. And so at the end of the season, obviously they parted ways with coordinators, and what I've heard, it was down to either Nick Sirianni leaving or the coordinators leaving. But what helped Nick Sirianni is in his first 3 seasons as head coach, he got the Eagles to the playoffs all 3 seasons. They got to the Super Bowl in one of those seasons, of course. And that's something that's hasn't happened ever for any Eagles head coach. So he had definitely bought himself time, because he jumped right in and was able to lift this team to a level that, their first 2 playoff appearances when they get knocked out by Tampa Bay, when they lose in the Super Bowl, that was unexpected. Nobody expected them to get the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs. They were truly underdogs. And then this past season, though, with expectation on them, completely dropped the ball. Now, also, I, in my opinion, feel like it's just a sign that there's also time, similar to what I mentioned about the Patriots, actually, time for a change of voices in the locker room. Sometimes teams can get a little bit too stagnant and stale is actually the best way to compare it to, where it's the same thing over and over again. Other teams are making adjustments. Other teams are bringing in some, youth, some fresh guys, just new guys. So that way, when you're playing them, you don't know exactly what they're going to put out there in the field. And it felt like the Eagles in all 3 phases of the game were very predictable because they have had that core group, but didn't make enough, in my opinion, in terms of adjustments. So now it comes down to offense looks very disconnected. The run game is the only thing they have to fall back on. Defense, people are breaking tackles left and right against the D-line. They're unable to stop anybody. And so
I'm like, Fletcher Cox just does not look the same.
Does not look the same. And that is what was concerning the most about how they were losing. It's like I always say, there is such thing as a good loss where you play hard and you just fall short. You got to tweak a couple things. No, they were losing bad and they were just playing bad, even with the wins. So that last stretch of 6 games in the regular season, the final game that ended it all, thankfully, because I didn't want to see them continue to play. And they were the one team in the playoffs, which is sad, that I was like, they're an automatic out. Like every other matchup, I didn't know who was going to win except for the Eagles, even against a banged up Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay. So overall, this offseason, I think it is and should be hopefully that wake-up call they need. You can't get complacent. You can't just expect to just run it back. Got to bring in something, got to make some adjustments, and then got to make sure that you can make adjustments in season because they lost the locker room. The team was not on the same page. You could see it in their body language. You could see it how they were on the sideline. There were murmurs coming out from the locker room, all these problems and things going on. Then the media, and I'm part of the media, but I'm not this type of media, was kind of festering it and perpetuating it, making it worse. And overall, the Eagles never made adjustments. And then the whole defensive coordinator debacle of you're still defensive coordinator, but you're not. It was too messy. So this season, I'm hoping with an off season of you got to make moves or you're out of here type of a vibe. This should be the off season they need to really reset and be able to pick up, because we did see an absolute regression from 2022 to 2023.
And hopefully it's just the one off season that it takes and not like some teams like my Panthers. And trust me, Renee, you're like, I know you had to ask me about my Eagles. Well, when I go on shows, it never goes. People ask me about this 2 and whatever, however many games it was. I don't know, 2 and 16. I quit counting. And I'm always like, oh.
Doing a lot.
Yes, a lot. We have a few comments in here. Hello, everyone coming on. Make sure you download the Roku app and look for Northeast Streaming Sports. Linda and Mac over there, the wonderful producers, are the ones I have to thank for this wonderful platform of NESSP at night. So the first comment we have is from Flydale Bacher. He is Kansas City Chiefs or die. He says, we're in the era of a new dynasty. I am War Chief Fly, Chiefs or die. So I had him on a couple of days ago. Always good fun. 400 and some views. People just tuned in. He brings a great energy to the show. So hello, Fidel. And he's also saying Jason Kelce might be a Chief next season. Now I want your thoughts on that, Renee.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't bring the Chiefs kingdom with me like that, because right now Eagles fans are not flocking anywhere. We're just Eagles fans are hiding, whereas Chiefs fans are out and about excited. Listen, I've heard a lot about Jason Kelce. I've definitely heard rumors about, him and Travis wanting to retire at the same time so they can go into the Hall of Fame together and this, that, and the third. Of course, we all know at the end of last season, when you're watching that final game, it looked like Jason Kelce was done. And it felt like he was done. And then watching him at the Chiefs run to win the Super Bowl, I kind of was like, wait a minute, maybe he's not done. He seems like it was seeming motivational, like you're sitting there watching the confetti fall around you and watching, yes, you're happy for your brother, but you're not happy because you're still playing and you're watching another team celebrate when it should be yours. Now, him going to the Chiefs would be disgusting. I mean, that would be very frustrating.
Yes.
That would be very that would be the ultimate probably slap in the face. Probably just as bad as watching the Eagles season fall apart last year, because I like the Kelsey brothers, but if he leaves the Eagles, Jason Kelsey needs to leave to retire. I don't want to see Jason Kelsey go to any other team. And I do also feel like a lot of athletes, and I've heard this from guys that play with the Phillies, with the Union, with the Eagles, with the six various athletes around the city, where Philly is home, and it's such a passionate fan base, and there are a lot of guys that want to play here, and this is it. You know, their families here, they're raising their kids here, and at the end of the day, I know it is a business, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of on that mindset of like, this is it for me. I'm gonna stay here until the wheels fall off, you know, and until I'm done. But to see, I haven't heard that actually, those exact details about him possibly going to Kansas City. But honestly, I feel like someone like him, Fletcher Cox, the only difference is Jason has young kids, and that does play a factor, guys. As much as you don't want to think about it, that does play a factor. You've got littles, you're building your family here, and then just pick up and move, versus someone like a Fletcher Cox who does not. He might be more comfortable with just relocating and starting new to finish out his career. But I do think Jason Kelsey, like, he is Philly, and I know Chris, hello, Chris, good friend of mine. He is Eagles through and through. Like, he eats, and even his wife, that's why she was out there. She didn't have a single Chiefs thing on. Kylie was like, I'm not wearing anything Chiefs. You're not going to get me wearing anybody's team's colors, anything except the Eagles. So I really don't see that happening, but I don't mind. Listen, it's the off season. Why not stir the pot a bit? But
I think, with the Kelsey brothers, especially with Jason being so instrumental in getting Travis back into the game. Yeah. You watch they have a podcast that they talk about it. They have like a show on Netflix. They talk about how Travis could not have been Travis, could never have been in the position he is if it hadn't been for his brother who believed in him, who kept him in there when he was kicked out of the league. He got him back in there. He went to bat for him, and now here he is. So for all intents and purposes, if Jason Kelsey did go to Kansas, we probably would be looking at a story just as big, or at least close to the whole Taylor Swift thing that's going on, just because everyone loves the Kelsey brothers. So, I mean, I digress. Probably not as big as the Taylor Swift thing, which, by the way, I saw a stat yesterday. There was an increase of 47.9% of women who tuned into the Super Bowl just because Taylor Swift was there. So Taylor got it done. Over $300 million worth of jerseys sold for Travis Kelsey.
Oh my God.
Oh, they ride off into the sunset and they're together forever, because they have spun this at least. I believe that their relationship is genuine. Some people think it's a publicity stunt, but they have definitely capitalized, I will say, on and off the field with this. And so Travis is supposedly joining Taylor somewhere in her concert quest now. So we got a few other comments. Looks like the Man Cave. Hello, Mike Echo. The Man Cave said the Eagles should have fired Sirianni and got them a new coach. Even Belichick would have been good for that defense. They will flip again because of coaching. We're not going to make this the whole Philadelphia show, Renee. Comments were in there, and I have to, pop them up there so, I can keep the audience engaged. And this is the Man Cave. So he's posing that. I mean, I don't know if it's rhetorical or what, but, hi, Man Cave. We're glad you're on. That goes without saying. So, then Fly says hello to you, Fly. Now Chris Palmy, I was on with Chris last night. Hello, Chris Palmy. He says hi to both of us. He's over to CDP Sports. Very, very good. He said no chance. Don't worry about it, Renee. Jason's going to retire as an Eagle. All right, I think I've caught up with all the comments. Hello to everyone coming in. Thanks for joining us. All right, switching gears, the NFL going over to the NBA All-Star Game. Records were broken. Ooh. I mean, over 200 points. I don't even know. And then they had the nerve, Renee. I don't know if you were watching live or actually at home. They had the nerve to run the airing right back with no, how they just go on this whole marathon of running shows back to back. Like during the holidays, a bunch of Christmas shows back to back. They literally ran this game immediately back. Like, I was looking at my DVR, like, wait a minute, did I run this back? No, it's airing again. Like, yes, this really happened. So your thoughts? Looks like they, had some good games, I guess, but to me, the All-Star game is just not what it used to be. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people that doesn't care. There are a lot of people that are very angry that the All-Star game is not more competitive and guys aren't playing defense and they're not playing hard. And I think I'd be and we've seen this happen. We've seen in All-Star games, guys do play hard and they get hurt. Would you rather that? I mean, and I'm not saying, I hate to say that because you can literally get hurt walking down the street. Like, getting hurt doesn't matter what you're doing. I could stand up and something could pop and that could be it for me. Like, it doesn't have to just be in a game. But I do feel like people get so caught up in me, the fan, and this is what I want. What about what the players want? They have a chance to play with guys they play against all year. You're playing 80 plus games out of a season. You're battling, you're competing, you're fighting. And you now get a chance to play together. And it's, to me, similar to what like the Harlem Globetrotters game is like, where it's just entertaining. It's a chance to think of the Avengers, like your favorite superheroes are coming together to compete together and have fun and lob alley-oops to each other and try shots from half court. Why not? So I think if everybody would get over this this is what it used to be. It used to be more competitive. I also think we're just in a different era. These guys, between social media alone, these guys grow up knowing each other. They are friends. I just saw something the other, I think it was like an hour ago, actually. I thought it was the other day, where Jason Tatum was saying this was his first time ever meeting Larry Bird. And it got me thinking, I wonder how many of these players had already met before they even got to the NBA. Or like a Michael Jordan, probably, maybe not him as much because he's not the most social out there, but some of these guys have already met each other. And so because you have a chance, my point of all this is like, there was a time pre-social media and everything where you really didn't see each other. Games weren't on TV all the time. You didn't have apps and stuff where you can easily access interviews and whatever else. So you really only saw guys when you played them. And it was more of a fight because of that. Whereas now, I hate to say it, professional sports, these guys are friends. They are literally talking to each other all the time. They're hanging out. I've seen it. I've been in social settings where I'm around different athletes, and they're the best of friends because they have the access right on their phone to be able to do it. So you don't have this situation of like, I don't really know you. You're on Indiana, I'm on Boston, you're on LA, and I don't know you until we play each other. It's a different time. It's a different age. And then my last thing is, and I got to give shout out to a friend of mine, Jonathan Brown, he also does a great job at sports coverage. He was saying how people are always complaining about the games and the scores. And he said Kobe's last All-Star game was 196 to 173. Jordan's last All-Star game was 155 to 145. And Magic's was 153 to 113. Like, these games have always been high scoring. We've got more guys shooting threes. I mean, Dame was pulling up from half court like it was nothing. You got more guys shooting threes. That in itself is going to increase the score. So I just don't understand this whole, like, to me, it's just fans that want to control everything and feel like they have to tell athletes what to do because they make all this money. And how dare you not go out there and play your heart out? How dare you load manage and rest? No, let these guys do what they got to do to stay healthy. That's why LeBron is playing for 20 seasons, because he isn't going hard in the All-Star game or playing every single game. Would you rather him play 10 seasons and play less games or be able to still play 20 years in? So I like it. It's fun. It's all fun and games. But I like the most, to be honest, I know I said last thing, but my last thing, the fact we're adding extra. You got the HBCU game. You got Sabrina versus Seth. You got the celebrity game. There's so many different components to All-Star Weekend that makes it a crossover of culture and entertainment and fashion. It's more than just the Sunday night game. So if you're just so fixated on the Sunday night game that you dismiss all the other exciting things that happen around it, it's your loss. But I think overall, this is what we're going to get. And it's only going to get more. Like, the court was lighting up and they had all these influencers involved and kid reporters, and it's only going to continue going in that direction, guys.
Yeah, and you're right. Social media is, sometimes they say social media is good. And so if it's connecting and bringing, generations honestly together, when you look at LeBron, who is a legend at this point, who has been in the game decades, and now you have those same, some of the same players that are now playing with him. They idolized him growing up. It's kind of like how Tom Brady was in the NFL when you have like Jordan Love and them coming in later on, or Aaron Rodgers. And kudos to Damian Lillard for the Milwaukee Bucks. He won the All-Star Games MVP, scoring 39 points to lead the Eastern Conference to that 211-186 win over the West, the highest scoring midseason exhibition to date. And he's actually, joining Michael Jordan, since we spoke about him, as the only other player in the league history to win a Saturday night event and be named MVP in the same All-Star weekend. So he basically, talked about that, such an honor anytime you were actually mentioned in the same sense, because, a lot of people will have the LeBron, Kobe, Jordan conversation all the time, but to have Damian Lillard in there is definitely great. He won the 3-point contest, edging the Minnesota Timberwolves' Karl Anthony Towns and Atlanta Hawks' Trae Young in the final round. And Jordan, for those of us that are old enough to remember, won the dunk contest in 1988. So, Renee, we got some more comments coming in here. Let me back up real quick, because this is the one thing I love about the show, is very interactive. I love the audience. Make sure everyone, hello, Roku channel, YouTube, all social media platforms. Welcome, and download Northeast Streaming Sports. All right, I got to go way back. Looks like Fly made a comment, just said Jason Kelsey partied harder than everybody during the Chiefs playoff run. Kansas City has embraced him, and he has embraced Kansas City. Yes, we see that. Now we're going to move on to Karen Bell. What'd you say, Renee?
I said we all party. It doesn't mean we're going to become Chiefs or something.
We all party. So Karen Belk, hi Karen, says as a Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith fan since their Bama days, despite the season the team had this past year. Looks like I'm missing part of her comment. Oh, there it is. Okay, she's just making comments as a whole. She's talking about MLS soccer starting here Saturday night. Yes, go Charlotte. We know against Minnesota. And so moving on down, let me catch up with some of the current comments here. Fly said the Super Bowl was the most watched in history, and Chris Palme is saying he has a question for you, Renee. So there you go. Thoughts, Renee, on the New York Riptide moving to Ottawa next year?
Yeah, I honestly haven't been following the NLL nearly as much as I had in the past, since I at one point was working with the NLL. Listen, I think the league as a whole and lacrosse as a whole is in a space of expansion for sure, where they're getting into different markets and also wanting to get into markets where they can get more ticket sales. And that's not just lacrosse. Soccer's in the same boat right now. And a lot of other sports are in that boat right now, to be honest, where they're trying to make sure that their franchises are in a city where they're going to be able to attract the city to want to come out, to want to support, to want to be there. I think for the Riptide, I don't know that they got ever since they launched, which I remember the excitement that was on the front end of that, but it feels like it never really reached what they thought it was going to be, because also in New York, you have teams like Buffalo. I know it's in a whole different part of New York, but I do think they're trying to expand just to get into different hotbeds of lacrosse. So I think if it works for the league and it allows them, it's not the first time you've seen in the NLL, which for anybody that's unsure is the box lacrosse league, indoor lacrosse. So the National Lacrosse League has moved their franchises around to try to find where they can work. But much like we're talking about the growth of the NBA, it was the same thing with the NBA in the early years, where you'd see franchises moving, the Seattle Supersonics moving to Oklahoma City or whoever it was. So I think this might be helpful for long-term, the growth of the NLL, because the PLL, the NLL, all that they've been doing around lacrosse in general, it's time to continue to ramp things up a bit.
And thank you for that question, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, just joining me, I have a special guest, Renee Washington, 3-time Division I All-American and Hall of Famer, soccer and ESPN CBS analyst, college sports, joining me. So if you're just joining, welcome her. Come on in and say hello. Got some great interaction going on. Chris is saying, of course, that sports are not the way they used to be. And let's see. He's basically saying that You can play longer because there's no defense allowed in the NBA and physical play. Yeah, that's true. I guess he's talking about LeBron. That comment was mentioned a little bit ahead.
I always hear that, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves where people talk about, the game's not what it used to be. Do you want to still see people out there fighting? Do you want to still see people getting knocked out and as they go up for a layup or a dunk getting pulled down and hurt? I mean, it's not, if you want that, that's not basketball. Basketball is it's a physical sport. Every sport I love, guys getting in each other's faces and being physical and the trash talking and stuff. But there's got to be limits to it, and to say, oh, we want them still playing like the bad boy Pistons and stuff.
Yes.
Those guys will tell you themselves how much they couldn't stand that. You're trying to do something basic like make a pass and someone's clocking you or checking you or knocking you over. It's too much. So I'm actually one that, and I'm a very big competitor. I was a very physical player myself, and I was all about trash talking. But I'm all for I don't need to see LeBron out there bucking up to Giannis or something like that. That's not basketball. If I want that, I'm gonna go tune into UFC, boxing, something else, even hockey. I'll go catch a hockey fight. But I don't want to. That's not what I want from basketball or football. These sports, just let the game do the talking.
Yeah, we got so many, and especially in football, especially so many flags on the plays, so many replays that I often feel like the penalties take the enjoyment out of the game. There's been times that I've been at a game in person and want to get home to watch another game, and because of all the extra timeouts, this game has now gone over. And especially if they're on different networks, they're not going to wait for that game to end before they start the second game. They're already starting the second game, so you're missing the real game that you want to watch at home because you're still at the stadium watching this other one because of all the penalties. So I'm with you on that, Renee. I guess they want, Chris wants to see some Ron Artest stuff go on.
I don't want to see Ron Artest going into the crowd fighting with fans or people coming out the crowd to fight with players. But yes. I do think to your point, Sonja, there is such thing as too much, and some of these penalties and even the technicals that we're seeing in the NBA, I will agree. Some of them are some phantom calls. It's too much. It's too soft. But I also feel like with all the research that we have that they're doing on CTE and those long-term debilitating types of injuries and things, I'm not going to be selfish enough to say that I want to see them fighting just in long term, they're doing some damage to their bodies, to their health. There's got to be a middle ground. So I think we will get a calming down of some of these penalties in football and technicals in the NBA and in basketball where they'll figure it out and it won't be as extreme as it is right now, but still help to regulate the game a little bit better.
Right. And we see the advocating here from Chris because he's a Bad Boys fan. I used to like the Bad Boy Pistons, not because they were bad boys, but they just, it's just one of those times, growing up in the 80s, late 70s, all that stuff. I'm telling my age here. That's just how we saw it. And when you're watching a game with your dad or your granddad or your uncle, they just kind of seem to go with that. And Chris is saying he's a little older than me. So he said he disagrees on this. But, we digress. He says he's from the old school. But he did say, you made some good points as well. And we know that. And so we respect your acumen here. So spring training is starting. Moving on to now the MLB. Spring training is starting. An exciting time of the year. I know you mentioned you're going to be going down to Clearwater for the soccer, though. Spring training also is happening with what's going on with the Phillies. Where's their spring training?
So it's wild because the Union and the Phillies both go down to Clearwater for spring training just at different times. Okay. I will be going down for the Phillies though, so I'm not going down for soccer. I'm going down for baseball actually. I missed the opportunity to go down for the Union, but it is going to be a lot of fun. It's exciting. One of my coworkers is already down there. He's actually down there the entire spring training, and he's covering it. And so we'll be going down for a week to do a variety of things. Check out the games. We've got some events going on and stuff like that. So it's time. It is go time.
I'm excited about that. My dad was really a big baseball person. He played in regional baseball, and I remember as a kid going to all of his practices and things like that. And so I have a love for the game as well. Who should we be on the lookout for? Like you got Shohei Ohtani, who is definitely was getting that big contract last year. And then he looked back and, brought someone else in. And so it's like big names like that. And then you got teams like the Oakland Athletics that was supposed to be moving to Vegas. And now the governor is saying it's a no-go after all this time. I mean, they talked about tearing down the Tropicana on the Vegas Strip and saying that, they would start construction in 2025, and now it's a no-go. So, like, what happens? Because to be honest, you don't hear too much about the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, the Oakland A's are a mess right now, to say the least. They're definitely not in a good spot. And to hear they were moving to Vegas, and Vegas right now, we're obviously seeing a push where Vegas has been becoming such a big part of sports. Obviously, sports betting opening up tremendously helps, but also just having teams there. You look at the Aces winning championships, you look at the Golden Knights, you look at the Raiders, Vegas in general, they've been doing a good job of bringing sports there. And to have a baseball team in Vegas would be really cool. Unfortunately, the governor's not having it. And so they're trying to figure out where they're going to be playing, the details of that. It's been pretty bad, but the Oakland A's aren't even competitive in Major League Baseball right now. Unfortunately, for them, it's just the league has the top grouping. As you mentioned, Shohei Ohtani with the Dodgers, to see him team up with Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Tyler Glasnow's there. They picked up Teoscar Hernandez, and of course the young Japanese pitcher and phenom Yoshinobu Yamamoto,
who he brought in.
Them. Yeah, they are dominant. But then you also look at a team like the Yankees. So are they. They've got Garrett Cole, Aaron Judge. They obviously brought in Juan Soto. They're still apparently shopping and bringing some big names. And then teams like the Braves, the Phillies, who have pretty much the same roster they're running it back with. The Diamondbacks, Rangers, Astros, same rosters as last year, that they just made some. I know the Phillies we talk about on our show all the time. They've made some minor moves around the edges. But there is that next group. I know Chris in the chat is talking about the Detroit Tigers. There's Seattle. There's some other teams that are kind of in that next tier that you still have to keep an eye on. They're at least competitive, and they should be able to compete for winning their individual divisions. But the top of the top, it's gonna be fun to watch. I don't even know in terms of like predictions of who's gonna come out of there, who's gonna meet up in, I should say, championship series and playoffs and things like that, because I have no idea. It's gonna be exciting to see how these teams come together. What do the Dodgers look like? It's great for baseball. It's not great for fans of other teams, but it's great for baseball that you have a super team and all these superstars playing there. That's going to get more people talking about them and wanting to see games. But I'm excited just to see, what do they look like on the field? How does this come together? It's a very long season in 162 games.
Very long.
That's a lot that could happen and go wrong or go right. So I'm just looking forward, because that top grouping, Sonja, is really, really competitive.
It's extremely competitive. And just to go back just a little bit, Vegas is known as the entertainment capital of the world, and they are trying to make sure that whatever you want to do to be entertained in life, that it's afforded in Vegas. And like you said, they got the Raiders out there. They were even talking about getting a actual NBA team out there as well. It's just been like a lot. So if you have all the sports out there, and then you're going to delve into soccer, and then you're going to delve into probably hockey, you get everybody out there, and you already have the WNBA out there. Like, you are literally creating a global phenom right there in the desert and centralizing like a hotbed of entertainment and just a magnet to everyone that's going to come out there. And you're going to have more people engaged, because you think about it, people go to Vegas. The first thing is, gambling and just having fun and seeing the shows and whatnot. But if they go out there and they don't even say they only have like maybe a 30% interest in sports, and they go out there and they see that it's right there for the taking, that will pique their interest and engage the fan. And that's what the leagues want. They want more engagement. You said it best. The A's have not been competitive. I mean, like, for the most part, I almost kind of forgot they were even out there, because, you think about like the Angels and everybody else that's all the way out there, in California. So there's so many other teams that are there that it's very easy to get, to fade out, so to speak, because it's so competitive. And you talked about the Dodgers have a conglomerate of talent. They literally looks like they have handpicked from a lot of different teams, like Freddie Freeman, Braves own. Like, we are devastated here in Atlanta that Freddie Freeman is gone. We still miss him. I went to a game and Freddie was there, and I was just taking all the pictures, like, and posting, like, yeah, Freddie, had to get you here, and then I went to another game, saw Soler with, it's just hard to see, our team divided up like that. And to know for a while, Freddie Freeman was the face of the Braves franchise since David Justice, which is way back. So, you go all the way back, and then Chipper Jones, all those heavy hitters. I like to think of Freddie up there with them, and it's just difficult to realize that he's not there. So now we got some more comments coming in here. Everyone, I'm sitting down with the one and only Renee Washington, 3-time Division I All-American and Hall of Famer soccer and ESPN CBS analyst, and she covers college sports. Tell us a little bit about some of the teams you cover up as a college analyst up there in Philadelphia. I know is that ESPN affiliate?
Yeah. So, listen, I love being able to be involved in college sports. Right now, college sports are incredible. Okay. If you're watching anything that's happening, college basketball wise, college soccer, college lacrosse is getting started. Of course, we're getting closer to March Madness. So I'm fortunate basketball wise, I am in the mix of, I do a lot with the Ivy League, the Atlantic 10, the CIAA. I'll actually be down involved with the CIAA tournament. So I'm in so many different roles. You'll see me on the sidelines.
In the Carolinas, you're going to be like in the CIAA.
Yes. Also, I'll be hosting some shows. So, I just really enjoy as we talk about all the different teams and leagues and sports. When it comes to college sports, you're going to get that raw, authentic excitement. The players are excited. The fans are excited. So for me personally, again, it's a variety, Philly area, Jersey, DMV, New York, of different teams that I've been working with, honestly, in a bunch of different conferences over the years that I've been fortunate to step foot on their campus and join the broadcast.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Because you talk about how the college game, we've even seen changes in it. We have the NIL deals that in my opinion is the reason why Nick Saban just hurried and got on out of Alabama. I mean, he just seems to abruptly have left. We know he wasn't a fan of the NIL deals. Is the college sports arena as a whole, we saw today that they're going to do the 5 and 7 now with all the trades to the SEC coming out of the Big Ten, the Pac-12 and all that. They're going to finally have where more teams are going to be able to make the playoffs, because a lot of teams feel like they got snubbed. And in fact, they call the UGA and Florida Seminoles game, the snub fest. And in fact, a bunch of Florida players did not even suit out because I guess that was their stance. Some of them said they were trying to go into the league, but let's be honest, they were offended that they didn't go to the playoffs. And so they just decided not to suit up. So in light of all of that, and you see it up close and personal, do you see the change in the college arena where it's literally, in my words, a baby NFL or a baby MLB or a baby NBA? Do you see that?
Yeah, I think it was always that, though. I think now it's just giving them more opportunities. With everything, it's going to take time. There's a learning curve. And much like actually I was mentioning with the penalties and technicals that we've been seeing called in the NBA and the NFL, the NIL is going to also take time to balance out, because right now you're seeing a lot of universities that are hiring staff to help their athletes learn about how to go out and, pitch themselves to a business, how to get, opportunities and partnerships, how to monetize their content. That's becoming, there's classes. A lot of schools are adding into their curriculum more opportunities for students to learn. For the athletes themselves, they're getting more learning. And then, of course, having people to help manage it and regulate it. And that's even become a part of a lot of schools recruiting. Their whole portfolio, part of their portfolio recruiting now includes, we're going to help you get NIL deals because we help this player get this, this, and this, and we're going to help you get the same thing. So I think it's just opening more doors, to be honest, for players. It is something that I kind of look at. Players were already making so much money for these schools. The Nick Sabans of the world, ironically, who's against it, these types of coaches, athletic departments, universities that are making billions and billions and billions of dollars off of ticket sales and merch and, alumni donations. Alumni donations are because a lot of those because of the teams, because of the success of the teams.
Yes.
So if you're making money and profiting off of these players, why not allow the players to profit off of their own name, image, and likeness? So I do understand, and I'm glad that it's finally been brought forward. It is wild to me to think about the fact there are college athletes that are making more money than professional athletes, making millions of dollars already. I'm like, can you imagine sitting in a class in college and you don't actually need to be there because you're making so much money already? You're like, I don't need this, econ 101 class. I'm already a millionaire. Like, it just, the influencer model in general is just something, it's bigger than us. And it's really taken the world by storm. I honestly look at them like, wow, I wish that I had these opportunities and had known about this and had these chances when I was younger, because you now have, for the next generation, so many more career paths and different things directions they can go. But overall, I think on the playing side of your question about the conference realignment and everything, I think it's time. The football playoffs are ridiculous, to be honest. Like 4 teams, you're handpicking teams. There's no, like, you can't have a team go undefeated. And I don't care if their starting quarterback was out. They were still winning games without him. And now, because you're scared it's going to be a blowout, you don't let them in. It's not fair to do to these players. So just like everything else, March Madness, they have that based off of you win your conference or you get an at-large bid. College football needs to go the same routes. Figure it out. Allow more teams in. Let them win it on the field, not a committee behind the scenes picking and choosing who they want to see. So I think, honestly, it's more of the whistleblowers that we're seeing now, where we're getting our eyes opened about things that have been under the radar, a disservice to the players to benefit whoever's making money off of it. And now it's going back to be in favor of what's best for the players, the team, the kids at the end of the day.
It all comes back down to the money. And like you said, like, we see the extra years of eligibility, especially with the pandemic that afforded a lot of, we had players like Brock, coming out from UGA down here. You're like 26, 27, and you're just going, I'm like, please tell me they at least have already graduated. They're still just playing. Like, are you serious? And speaking of college and just kind of tying it in, Chris wanted to know your thoughts on Jim Harbaugh coming back to the NFL, to the Chargers from Michigan, the Big Ten. I have a question I need to tag onto that, Renee, because I want to make sure this all kind of knits together. With him leaving that organization now, and is Michigan going to be the same powerhouse we saw? Did he leave it in capable hands? Is my part that I'm going to tag on to this question that Chris has posed.
Oh, well, first of all, him winning a national championship, and then also the bigger than the championship, the NCAA was going to have, they were still doing some investigating where he might have still been dealing with some suspensions or probational issues or whatever. So I also had heard he was moving to the NFL to dodge that bullet of the other NCAA, infractions that happened, because they were still investigating there of, the issues that were going on the sideline and whatever else.
They did investigate it.
Yeah, but I had heard they weren't done. So part of, I think, why he moved to the NFL was, okay, let me clear, I got to flee, got to get out of here. Excuse me. But I do feel like for Michigan, it's such a big football program in general. It's going to absolutely take a hit. I know here in Villanova with the men's basketball team, that's a great example. They're still a top team in the country, but Villanova basketball is nowhere near what Villanova basketball used to be. When you have a head coach that's been leading and they're the ones that's steering the ship, helping with the recruiting, they help develop the culture, it's hard to replace a Jay Wright. It's hard to replace a Nick Saban. It's hard to replace a Jim Harbaugh. Like, these guys have put in so much time, and now you're asking a coach, it's typically a younger coach that hasn't had as much experience, that's coming in, that's having to take over. Because the problem with a new head coach, and I say this even with Deion Sanders, because I defend him a lot of times in Colorado, coaches need their own set of coaching staff, their own set of recruiting classes, their own set of, this is how we do things. And one coach to the next, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are, you're not going to come in and just be able to fill someone else's shoes. It's like a step parent trying to come in and just automatically, I'm just going to replace mom or dad. There's always going to be something different and some sort of, butting of heads and frustrations. And so Michigan will ultimately be okay. Alabama will ultimately be okay. But it's going to be some sort of a change. And it might be where they lose 3 or 4 games instead of 1 or 2. But it's going to take some time to absolutely get them back to being that powerhouse that they once were.
Right. And that's so thorough. And hi, Anissa. That's my sister saying hello. Great show, ladies. And you all, time flies when you're having fun. Our time is over. And Renee, it's been an absolute joy to have you on. Please know that you have an open invitation anytime you have the availability. I'm sure we'll talk again. Renee Washington, 3-time Division I All-American and Hall of Famer soccer, as well as ESPN, CBS, Paramount Plus analyst. It's been a great show, everyone. I hope you all have a great night. Thanks for all the love and the comments. And Chris is wishing us success as well. And everyone, we wish you a good night.